Okay, we're having a little too much fun this morning. I will call us to order and we'll roll call to establish attendance. Where did we start last time? Councillor Paquette?
I am here.
Welcome. Councillor Walters?
Good morning, and I think a happy birthday to Councillor Banga.
Oh, Councillor Banga?
Good sunny morning from South Edmonton.
And is it your birthday today?
And thank you so much.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Councillor Cartmel?
Happy birthday, Mo.
Thank
Morning.
you.
Councillor Katarina?
Good morning.
Morning. Councillor Zadig?
Happy birthday, Mo.
Morning. Councillor Essinger?
Good morning.
Morning. Councillor Hamilton?
Good morning. Happy birthday, Councillor Banga.
Good morning. Councillor Henderson?
Morning. So you want us out of here quickly so you can go party, Mo?
I guess so.
Councillor Knack?
Good morning, happy birthday, Mo, and no parties yet, not allowed.
You can party at 1.
Councillor McKean?
Happy birthday, Mo.
Good morning.
Well done.
And Councillor Nickel?
Good morning, and happy birthday, Mo. Scotch is on me.
Can't have that. Thank you.
That's everybody. I will spare attempting to lead us in song for both technical and aesthetic reasons, but never works well over Zoom. So I'll acknowledge that we are having today's non-regular council meeting on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional territory of the Cree, the Dene, the Saulteaux, the Blackfoot, and Nakota Sioux peoples, as well as one of the great homelands of the Métis Nation. And I will need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'm happy to move the agenda for the March 4th, 2021 City Council non-regular meeting with the following additions under 6.1 temporary pandemic accommodation and 6.2 public intergovernmental update.
Second.
Thank you. So just a note, we moved up 6.1 here just because it would have been very late in March to do the renewals, and it's a bit irregular to add it to a non-reg meeting, but time is of the essence with our partners there to give them certainty for April, of course, assuming approval today, but there was a good discussion at executive committee on Monday about this. And there's also item 7.1 before us here today, previously added to the agenda. So that's what's before us. I don't see any questions on the agenda. Please vote.
I'm a yes. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
I'm a yes.
We have all the votes.
Got booted out here. I have to log back in. Display the vote, please. Carried. Protocol items. I don't think we have any this morning. Selection of items for debate.
If no one's on, I'll select the verbals 9.1 and 6.2.
6.2 and 9.1. Thank you. Councillor Nickel?
7.1, sir, for questions only.
Okay, noted. Someone want to move 6.1?
I'll happily move that.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I just have a couple of questions on 6.1.
Okay, I will unmove it.
Okay, so selection of 6.1 by Councillor McKean. All right. We have no request to speak or request for time specific at this point. Are there any councillor inquiries today? Not seeing any. Then we'll work through this in order, noting that 6.2 and 9.1 are quasi cross-referenced, so we may wish to deal with them together. But let's start with 6.1. As I said, we had a good discussion about this at executive committee, and then some related good discussion yesterday at community services, actually, that illuminated it, which may be where Councillor McKean's questions arise. So I'll go to him for questions on this, and then we'll consider a motion once we've dealt with the questions. So, Councillor McKean.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and it's kind of unrelated, but I've had probably, I don't know how many email, but quite a few email from people in that general area concerned about security. So I just wondered if somebody could give an outline of perhaps how things have evolved at the convention center in regards to security and how we feel about it now, and how exactly, who's doing it and how exactly we feel about it.
Councillor Rob Smythe here. So certainly in the early days of when the facility was activated, there were some significant challenges. Recognize that we had feedback on initial stages of the facility standing up. Since then, though, working with EPS and our peace officers and even private security, we've tried to significantly increase our presence around the facility. Certainly issues as has been talked about at council on a few occasions, in the pedways has been challenging. There have been a number of camps that have emerged close to the facility. But working with the agencies and with police, we're certainly having a much stronger presence around the building. So, I mean, and that's going to, obviously will continue until we find other locations for May. But certainly that's been observed, and we're meeting regularly on it to try to anticipate what might happen and deal with it. So it's an ongoing body of work. We believe that we have increased our presence, but certainly challenges do emerge. Again, we try to respond to in a very timely kind of way. And the agencies that are working there have really come up as well in terms of their presence. Private security has increased as well. We can't deal with every eventuality, but there certainly is a lot of activity to make sure that people who are staying there are safe, but then importantly that it doesn't cascade out of the facility when there are issues in the community. We meet with the city manager and other DCMs with the Downtown Business Association on a weekly, now bi-weekly basis, and they bring issues to us as well, and we try to respond as well. So our neighborhood empowerment team has been doing a lot of outreach with businesses in the downtown and in proximity to there, and our graffiti team as well have increased their activity in terms of removing graffiti as quickly as possible. So a quick overview of managing that. It's not perfect, but we certainly have tried to increase our activity to make it as safe and secure as we possibly can.
Yeah, I think the point I wanted to raise too, Mr. Smythe, is that there's conflicts and different, maybe even conflicting agendas at play, but and the police took a lot of grief over an error in judgment made by a couple of officers recently. But I just, we also have a constituency of people who live and work in the downtown who have, I think, had raised legitimate complaints at times. it's not just being scared of seeing a person, but actual interactions that were troubling or scary for them. And so, you know, it's such a difficult balance, I know, and I don't think anybody would expect perfection, but, you know, the police play an important role in all this. And I think that was something that I think perhaps needed to be said too, that they serve people's interests and I think take a lot of grief for it. So, like I said, we have those conflicting issues at play, but you know, I guess, so you'll be getting that balance perfectly in coming weeks, Mr. Smythe.
Well, the other point, Councillor, is we're bringing back a report based on Council's motion from a couple of weeks ago in terms of how we're, basically a city manager communicated, I think yesterday, a new sort of operating procedure in terms of how, you know, police, but our peace officers as well, respond to situations in our core and in the LRT system. So, I mean, this is a related kind of issue, but I think it'll be reflected there as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm out of time.
Thank you. Councillor Caterina?
Good morning. So a couple of questions. Mr. Smythe, you had mentioned that you're looking for locations come May. Have you done any kind of extensive work where you can give us that type of information of what you're thinking of or where? At this point?
Not at this point. We want to be, there's a number of facilities that are still in play, and we haven't gotten to a conclusion of which ones are going to be the best ones that could be activated. So we're looking at north side and south side, and taking, you know, we certainly agree with what was communicated to council yesterday about more but smaller facilities. Now, that may not be possible over the short term for financial reasons and just in terms of what buildings might be suitable. But as soon as we could begin to land on what those might be, we'll communicate them up to council.
Okay, can you clarify for me this morning, because I'm starting to get the calls now that people are hearing that the Expo Center is now going to be the convention center where they're going to be housed. My understanding was that we're looking at vaccine distribution there, which is one thing. Rehousing them at the Expo Center is something else that I need to know as soon as possible in order to relay it to my constituents that have gone through this already and are now worried that they're going to have to go through it again.
Councillor, the Expo Center is not one of our facilities that we're considering.
Okay, that's all I needed to clarify on that. And the do you have a breakdown, Mr. Smythe? $3 million paid to the Mustard Seed. What are they using that money for? What's it for? A breakdown, does that include the use of the convention center? Does it include all the in-kind? Is that one total bill, or is there a breakdown to what is actually being used? Is it all staffing? Is it mostly staffing? Is it programming?
Maybe I'll ask Ms. Kajener to weigh in on that. I think she has some of those details.
Sure. Councilor Caterina, because of the way that the licensing agreement was structured, is the cost for the convention center, including food and security and janitorial and cleaning, is being divided across all three agencies. So each of the contract amounts reflects not only the agency's own staff that they're providing on site as part of their program contribution, but also a portion of the overhead costs essentially associated with the convention center. So basics like food and security and cleaning. So and within the contract arrangement, Mustard Seed is responsible for providing the services overnight. So they're the overnight shelter operators. So they're the ones that provide the staff to support 300 people sleeping in the facility each evening.
Okay, and with that, I don't know how the contract is structured. So we pay them, we give them money. They pay us for the use of the convention center?
They pay the money, the cost from ECC flows through the agency. So we pay, it flows through those contracts.
Okay, it goes to EDC or Global, whoever's.
Explore Edmonton, yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting to note. So, okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Do you have more questions, Councillor McKeon, or?
I was going to move the recommendation and speak to it briefly.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you. Need a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Councillor Henderson. Anybody else before we go to Councillor McKeon to close? Councillor Henderson, if you could take the chair real quick.
Happily.
So, good discussions this week about some of the learnings with this, and I don't regret at all establishing this facility and the services to meet the need. And I think our agency partners, Boyle, Bissell, Mustard Seed, and Bent Arrow, as well as AHS and Explore, have done a really phenomenal job under really suboptimal pandemic conditions. And it made sense based on a lot of what we've learned from the cold weather protocols, as well as some of the day programs and isolation work at Expo earlier in the year. And clearly the need is there for spaces for people to provide tipinoa, which is literally shelter from the elements. But this was never the business the city wanted to be in, and never the model the city has supported. We may need shelters for short-term, brief, and non-reoccurring episodes of homelessness, even if we eliminate chronic homelessness. But warehousing people at this scale, I think we've seen and heard from our agency partners, is okay in a pinch, in the context of a public health emergency or a natural disaster, which is the scale of what we've been dealing with here for the last year now. But it is not, I think we've learned a lot too about the standard of care and meeting people where they're at. But I think I'm persuaded very clearly by the discussions we had yesterday at Community Services Committee, which we'll pick up at the next council meeting, that we need a slightly more bespoke approach for meeting different people where their needs are at in different parts of the city. And much as we're looking at the distributed model for the housing that's ultimately the solution to chronic homelessness, in the interim with accommodations, I think we have learned a lot from this. And it will be time to sunset this approach at the end of April. And our challenge will be to continue to try to bring as much bridge housing online as possible to graduate folks into from this. And this is where the federal potential around further pandemic-related top-ups to the Reaching Home funding, which is providing some of the operating support for that bridge housing, as well as another top-up to the Rapid Housing Initiative that allows us to acquire some more spaces on an opportunistic basis, will be so critical, because the city's already gone out well beyond our jurisdiction here, with now north of 10 million in support from from the COVID relief dollars. And those are not dollars available to us for business support, not dollars available to us for transit, where we're taking a bath still because of the pandemic. And so that was a very deliberate choice, and I'm sleeping fine at night knowing that we did this, but there has to be a better way. So with thanks to everyone for this and for the extra month of critical work in here, I think it was essential from an essentially emergency relief basis for us to do this, and it's essential that we extend it for another month here while we continue to bring other more suitable, appropriately scaled supports for people on a transitional basis, including more bridge housing and eventually more permanent supportive housing for people as well. So this is the biggest box of Band-Aids we've ever bought for a challenge that does have a cure. And we need to be in the Band-Aid business for another month here. But we really need to optimize the use of all public resources across all orders of government to invest in the cure. to deal with the social disorder issues that Councillor McKean has raised, and to get better outcomes for people who are struggling in our city, and to get better value for the taxpayer at every level. So we'll keep fighting for that, but in the meantime, we do need the other month here, and again, gratitude to the partners for doing their best, and some really extraordinary and life-changing and life-saving work here under very tough circumstances. So my gratitude continues, obviously, abundantly for them. I'll stop there, take the chair back. Anybody else before we go to Councillor McKean? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And Mayor Iveson, thanks for all the work you've done too on the federal level. I know Councillor Henderson has as well through FCM. It's sort of been all hands on deck on this council. And I appreciated Councillor Nichols' questions yesterday about standards for shelters. I think that's really important. And I agree with you, Don. I think there's been a lot of lessons learned from this. I think what's bothered me a lot as I've grown to learn more and more about homelessness is the conflict it creates in our community, whether it's people down in Rossdale feeling extremely nervous about having a large encampment next door, or the people in some of the neighborhoods that I represent and almost dealing with homelessness on a daily basis for years and years and years, and how that can sort of weigh down the sense of community in a neighborhood. But I think of the other conflict, I mentioned it briefly earlier, the conflict where police are sent out to deal with homeless people, and that's not ideal. It's far from ideal when the criminal justice system is sent out to deal with people with complex mental health, addiction, and other issues. But they're the tool that we've been using for years, and people call the police, and the police respond when people feel that they are in some sort of peril. And so one of the learnings I've had recently was that the police are extremely demoralized by the situation, and I don't want them to be. I know a lot of really good cops who compassionately deal with our most vulnerable folks, know them by name, know their histories, go back to university to study these issues. But then somebody gets sent out to deal with a call and it's not done perfectly. Those systems aren't perfect, but I would have felt remiss if I hadn't offered a bit of an olive branch to the police as well on the conflict that we asked them to deal with, when in reality, this should have been decades ago dealt with better as a mental health and health issue, because those are the systems that, and housing, obviously, those are the systems that offer real solutions for these folks and permanent solutions for these folks. And if we can get the housing right, which again, I credit this council for investing so much time and tax dollars into, if we get it right, those conflicts will start to be reduced year over year over year. Our sense of our community community safety will improve year over year over year. So I'm happy to support this small contribution to an extension of the convention center as a Band-Aid solution, as you referred to, Mr. Mayor. And I look forward to perhaps a more smaller distributed model as some of our next stage work on this. Last thing I wanted to say is to our new, still relatively fresh-faced city manager, You have a tremendous team of people that work on this. And I think you probably already have a sense of that, but please know that they're, Rob, Jackie, Crystal, Rachel, and Hanny, and probably 50 others I'm not naming, but I just wanted to thank them for all their work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Caterina.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Zadek. We're just watching.
Yep.
We've got a couple more coming in here.
Hasn't popped up for me, so I'm a yes.
Councillor Paquette
The wheels are spinning. I'm a yes.
and Councillor Hamilton.
Same for me, I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Oh, okay, I was on the wrong screen. Display the vote. Carried unanimously. Just wondering about the order here. Yeah, well, given that 6.2 and 9.1 are related and probably will flow together, I'm wondering if we should bring forward 7.1.
I'll move to bring 7.1 forward. I suspect it won't be a long discussion, so it probably makes more sense to move it, to do it now.
Yeah, thank you. So seconded by Councillor Banga. Please vote to bring it forward.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Caterina. Councillor Paquette?
I am a yes. It popped up just one.
Yeah, we've got all the
submitting.
votes. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Display the vote. Carried. Okay, so Councillor Nicol, you had questions on 7.1?
Yes, and if my computer craps out again, I might get caught off midstream. It seems to be updating right now, as happens to a few other folks. So my question, Mr. Corbould, we had a kind of an earlier discussion about this bylaw. So in terms of what does it do? What does it materially change because of the recent court decision?
Yeah, I'll start and then maybe hand over to legal. But essentially, the recent court decision indicates that the way in which the delegation of indemnification was done is not appropriate. So this bylaw would essentially ensure that the delegation of that work is appropriate, so that it can be done, delegated to the city manager and in turn to the city solicitor. The other thing I would say is no matter if it's delegated or not, what's important is that the consideration for indemnification requires legal advice no matter who makes the final decision. And of course, that decision could be council, it could be the city manager, or it could be the city solicitor. But it's important that consideration of the indemnification is given the due proper legal advice. And the last thing I would say is that I'm mostly concerned about the city employees and making sure that we have the right procedures in place to indemnify them for the great work they do in the city. And so that's what is most important to me about getting this bylaw considered. And I might just see if Kim has anything to add from a legal perspective, if that's okay.
The only thing that I would add is that this is just basically to tidy up the delegation to make sure that it's absolutely clear and explicit.
Okay, so I have no issue with regards to Mr. Corbould with indemnification of the employees. But now it's a question of the indemnification of the politicians that I'm raising an eyebrow at about where does the authority lie for questions. For example, somebody may decide to take me on and want to sue me for something or down that line. How does that process work?
Yeah, so, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep, can I speak to that? So the process under the policy, which sets out how it flows, is that generally it's civil claims. So often the city is sued and sometimes a councillor is named. So the normal process is if a councillor gets served with a statement of claim, they bring it to the attention of the city solicitor, who then makes a decision based on legal principles as to whether they were acting in the course and scope of their duties and whether or not they were acting in good faith. And if everything appears to be in order, we'll make a decision on the indemnification. And all of that information is kept very confidential by the city solicitor.
Well, but this now raises an important question between who should make that call. Is it appropriate for the city manager and legal to extend indemnification issues to elected officials, or should elected officials really be the ones making that call given certain circumstances that may arise? And this is where I'm a little concerned about, because throwing it into your realm could cause a conflict and wouldn't be necessarily fair to administration in some cases. That's what I'm looking at, what I think anyways.
Yeah, I understand, Councillor, and really the answer to that question is, at the discretion of council. I've had lots of chats with the city solicitor on this. We're more than comfortable doing that based on, again, the legal principles behind indemnification and what the particular case is. And if this bylaw were not to be passed, then of course that would be a decision every time that would have to go to council for any of the councillors. And so that would just take more time. It can be done, and we can implement it if that's the decision of council. We would have to sort of, I guess, amend the bylaw that is in front of you now to make sure that the city employees are covered and make it separate, I suppose. But I understand your perspective, but I'm quite comfortable either way, because any decision that I or the city solicitor would make would be based on some really good legal advice that if council decides that they want to make that decision, they would see as well. And there is some very important legal principles involved in that indemnification decision. So.
Okay, I'll probably need a second round here. I can't see my clock here for some reason.
You've got 20 or 10 seconds left. We're just resetting the system, but I can watch you.
Okay, then I guess the question I would put to everyone here on city council, it's this question of the separation between indemnification of politicians in certain circumstances. Am I still on? Okay, there we go. Indemnification of politicians and what kind of process should be put in place to protect future administrations from being caught in a political crossfire is kind of what my worry is.
Well, we'll take the open-ended question in the spirit in which it is offered. I think an answer to that will need to come in the form of an amendment that would be debatable, just in order to actually have that conversation. But I hear what you're putting on the table, Councillor Nicol. I do see a few more questions here, so let's hear those. Councillor Carmel.
Good morning, thank you. So my understanding of the concern raised with the recent court decision was that the question of who decides on indemnification was contained within policy at the City of Edmonton and not within bylaw, and that what needed to be corrected was that it was addressed in a bylaw and not in a policy. First of all, is that correct?
That's correct.
But the recommendation we have in front of us changes the policy and then crystallizes it in bylaw. Our current policy leaves the choice of indemnification with the city solicitor. Is that correct? I looked for the policy on the website and I couldn't, it's not available there.
The policy is on the website. It's called Legal Representation and Indemnification Policy. What happens is the delegations occur through the city administration bylaw. So this amendment is only to make the authority to make the decision clear in a bylaw. The policy just outlines how that discretion will be exercised. So the policy is also approved by City Council. It was approved in 2002, and it just sets out direction from Council on how to implement the authority.
It's my understanding that that the court case was with the City of Calgary, and that the City of Calgary's bylaw explicitly leaves this discretion and essentially the decision with the city solicitor and not with administration and not with council. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of their bylaw change. They are slightly different than us in that they have a specific bylaw that gives the city solicitor direct authority from City Council. Ours is a little bit different. We've set it up so everything flows through the city manager, who then sub-delegates, and that's through the city administration bylaw.
So I'm wondering if we might not want to, and I'm sorry for this, Mayor Iveson, I should have suggested this when it was at committee, but if we not do a bit of a jurisdictional scan and consider that question of whether this advice ought flow through administration or if it ought come directly from the city solicitor to council for their consideration. Yeah. And I understand that is perhaps a sensitive suggestion or a provocative one. I'm not meaning to casting any aspersions or criticisms, but there is also a question of optics of the potential that one might perceive that legal advice is being filtered or muted or manipulated or adjusted because it comes through administration and not directly to council. So might we see what other jurisdictions have done in terms of answering that question? I'm a little concerned that we're actually in changing our policy and crystallizing it in bylaw without having a real look at this question.
Yeah, I can respond to a bit of that, Councillor Cartmel. We actually did do a jurisdictional scan. We don't have it in the materials here. It's all over the map. It's all very different. None of the councils though that I saw, there may be an exception somewhere in North America where the council does it. For the most part, it's delegated either directly to the solicitor or to the city manager, and it is about a 50-50 split at all the folks we looked at. And I would just say whether it comes through directly to the solicitor or through the city administrator, at no time would that impair the city solicitor's ability to provide direct legal counsel and advice to anyone on council. That's their role, and it's very clear. So even if we do this delegation to me, which will in turn get delegated to the city solicitor, that in no way prevents direct contact, as you see on a routine basis, between the city solicitor and your offices. And Kim, anything to add to that from a jurisdictional scan or any other perspective?
I can just comment on the way the policy's been implemented to date. City councillors, when they are named in a civil claim, they come directly to the city solicitor, and the city solicitor handles that piece very confidentially, and really, to my knowledge, no involvement of the city manager, because there's no need. The city solicitor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just got a few seconds left. Mike, that is not my concern at all. My concern is really just, the process and the optics of the process. I would not be comfortable leaving these choices with the politicians. I do think they should be with admin or the solicitor, but I would like to think about whether they should be with admin or with the solicitor directly. And I think that's a question we might examine more fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson.
Well, as maybe there's an opportunity here to revisit the 2002 policy, but as I understand this, we are really just transferring that 2002 policy into a bylaw, correct? Nothing is changing in our practice. We just need to create a bylaw that allows our policy to continue to operate.
Yes, that's correct, Councillor. And my immediate concern, and the reason I wanted this at this meeting is until we do that, there is a risk to our employees, and so I would like to make sure that we, at the very least, we get them indemnified. We can always revisit the directive on if it's through me or through the solicitor.
So then to follow up on Councillor Carmel and Councillor Nichols' thought, that the way we may want to deal with this is to put the bylaw in place and do a subsequent that revisits essentially what the original policy was. that can always then be translated into a revised bylaw, correct?
Yes, that can be done,
Okay.
and that would solve my immediate concern with our employee protection. So.
And in terms of this, Councillor Nichols' question, because it's a bylaw, council, at any time, a councillor, if they were not happy with the answer they got from the administration, city solicitor, council can always remove that delegation. That power exists, and that question can arise really easily. So any councillor who was unhappy with the answer that they got from the solicitor could bring it to council, and council could act accordingly, correct?
Kim?
That's right. You could always amend the bylaw to take that authority away if you were unhappy with it, or you could
Or
change
even
the
on a one
policy on how
instance.
it's exercised.
Yeah, I mean, but even on a single instance, the ability would be we don't have to take the delegation back permanently. We could take the delegation back under that one decision. I think. I mean, that these kind of things have come up before. So it doesn't mean amending the bylaw. We would have a mechanism, a councillor would have a mechanism to come to council and say, I think I should have been indemnified here, and council could, that would be my understanding, could say in this instance, we'll withdraw the delegation and make the decision here at council. I would think. Would that not, I mean, I realize that, yeah, it's an exception to the bylaw, but it wouldn't mean changing the entire bylaw to do that.
So I certainly think if you felt that the city solicitor inappropriately made a decision, that you could, the way our current delegations are set up, raise that issue with the city manager, and then the city manager could raise that with city council.
Yeah. So, and probably whether or not we have to name that mechanism for doing that, I think is an interesting question, but I think that power always exists on any bylaw for us to be able to do that. I think probably a simple notice of motion would bring it to council. Great, thanks, those are my questions.
I think we'll need a second round here.
I'll move a second round.
Thank you. I think I got Councillor Knack there first. You're okay to second, Councillor Henderson?
Second.
Okay. Please vote on a second round.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Caterina. Councillor Banga, are you still with us? I do believe Councillor.
For Zadek.
Thank you, Councillor Zadek. Councillor Banga, I just wanted to check. I know you had to leave at 10:10. Well, no, Councillor Banga is absent. We have all the votes. 12 are in.
Display the vote.
Just a correction, I'm still here, and
okay.
yes.
We
Thank
will
you,
amend the
Councillor
record.
Banga.
Thank you.
Yeah, so another round is approved. I'm just going to note that really the purpose of today's discussion is to codify the current practice. It's in bounds to question that practice, but we might, if further analysis is desired on that, just partly in the interest of time, also wish to deal with the bylaw today and then give some subsequent direction to bring back that other question and perhaps to council services or a more casual committee forum at the appropriate time. If we want to get into all that, but not to prejudice the next round of questions too much, just mindful of time and purpose of today's conversation. So Councillor Nicol, go ahead on the second round.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, noting your comments, I think that's a good suggestion. What we should do is indemnify our employees today, fully knowing that if I have a concern or some issues, let me bring forward an amendment at another time, because we're pretty constrained today. And I think that would be appropriate. I'm not asking to do an amendment on the fly here. I think we need to be a little more thoughtful about this. So I'm happy to move the first reading of the bylaw. Fully just letting councillors know that I'll be bringing forward amendments, because I think there's some process mechanics issue here that need to be sorted out.
I'll second that.
First readings before us. Thank you. Councillor Carmel?
Thank you. Agreed in all respects. I will work on a subsequent motion, perhaps on this, that I can offer later in the meeting if that's agreeable to the chair.
Sure. Yeah, I think that works. Are there any further questions on what's before us? Anyone else wishing to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll just take a quick minute here.
Let me just double check, because I'll
Close.
Yeah, I'll just see if there's anybody else. Okay, go ahead.
There's no question we need to indemnify the employees. That's not what is at issue here. There is just this question between the city solicitor speaking directly to city councilors and then going back to the city manager. I see a confusion here between my one major employee, which is the city manager, and then the role of the city solicitor. If the city solicitor is speaking directly to city councilors without the city manager being there, we could create potential conflicts. And so that's what I'm trying to avoid here, just from a systems point of view for everyone. And so that's what I'm concerned about. And so let's see what I can take apart here and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote on first reading.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Banga, are you still with us? We have 12 votes. We have 12 votes. I'm not sure if Councillor Banga is still with us.
Yeah, if we haven't heard from him, we'll have to consider him absent.
we'll
So
note him
display
absent.
the vote.
Thank you.
Carried.
I'll move second reading.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote on second reading.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Councillor Banga, were you here for the first vote?
Yes, I was.
Councillor-
I couldn't push the button in time.
I can't, Councillor Banga, in order to be shown on the record that you were here and you voted, I need to hear your vote or have you vote electronically. So unfortunately, unless the mayor wants to overrule, you will show up as not absent for first reading. And for second reading, how would you like to vote, Councillor Banga?
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Display the vote. That's carried 13-0.
Mr. Mayor, do we need consideration?
Preferably.
So moved.
Second.
To allow third reading to proceed, please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Caterina.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Banga. Councillor Zadek?
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried.
I'll move third and final reading of bylaw 19613.
Second.
Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Councillor Banga?
Yes.
Thank you.
Display the vote. Carried unanimously on third reading. Okay. And there may be a subsequent, we'll come back to that at the tail end of the meeting. Let's shift gears to item 6.2, Public Intergov Update, Verbal Report.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Good morning. As you know, the Government of Alberta released its 2021 budget last Thursday, and today we're going to present our preliminary assessment of the impacts on the city's budget. While their effects on the city's 21 operating budget are limited, I should note that the absence of funding to support the operating needs of affordable housing may impact the city's budget. The capital budget, however, was impacted for the budget current cycle and into the future. As we said previously, we understand the financial pressures that the government of Alberta is facing, and we will continue to work as closely as possible with our counterparts to better understand the specific budget details and to ensure the needs of Edmontonians are clearly represented. And now I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Pearson, who will share with you a detailed assessment.
Thank you, and good morning, Council. So, in reviewing the provincial budget documents released last week, we believe there is little to no impacts to our existing operating budget. Grants in lieu look to be in place at 2020 levels. Flow-through of federal gas tax is fairly similar. Photo enforcement has no signal of a change. And low-income transit pass program, it's not explicitly a budget item, but we have been told it is intact, and the line in the estimates where that occurs has not been moved. So the government of Alberta effectively held the education tax requisition at last year's levels as well. Our partners and affiliate organizations also rely on provincial funding. So based on our initial review, funding has been maintained for the FCSS grants, police, and libraries. With respect to other areas of interest, for affordable housing, while there is no additional operating support for the supportive housing units being built under the Federal Rapid Housing Initiative, funds were allocated for related aspects of affordable housing in the provincial budget. The provincial budget provides a $16 million reinstatement to the rental assistance program in 2021 and 2022, helping Albertans in need of affordable housing. This is a reversal of the 24% operating cut imposed on the non-market housing providers in the previous budget, in effect returning to 2019 levels. There was also a one-time increase of $72 million for shelters through the pandemic in the provincial fiscal year 20 to 21. With respect to disaster recovery, the budget introduces a new cost-sharing mechanism and funding limits for the disaster recovery program. These changes will be effective for 2021 disaster events, bringing Alberta's program in line with those offered in other provinces. Municipalities and Métis settlements, as of April 1st, will be asked to fund 10% of damages caused by natural disasters like floods and wildfires. This week, the Minister will be sending out formal notices about the changes. With respect to the Community Facility Enhancement Program, there's a further reduction to this program from $25 million in 2020 to $18.5 million in 2021. The program provides funding for communities to upgrade, renovate, build, or acquire public use facilities, which may affect city partners. The budget introduces a new Stabilize program, which will allocate an additional $15 million in 2021 and 2022 through providing one-time funding to qualifying sports, arts, and cultural organizations to offset operational costs and support reopening when it is safe to do so. For Edmonton Northlands, there were further reductions in the operating grants to support the Calgary Stampede in Edmonton Northlands, from $9 million in 2020 to $6.8 million in 2021. It is unclear how funding allocations will break down between the two, so we will continue to work with Northlands and explore Edmonton to determine a path forward. The Municipal Affairs has increased funding under the Alberta Community Partnership to include $10 million for municipal initiatives associated with the Referendum Act and the Senate Election Act. Administration is assessing the support to the city and the city may receive in conducting its municipal elections. For our post-secondary institutions, which we consider key civic partners, Budget 2021 reflects an overall 1.4% decrease in funding for advanced education and will introduce performance-based funding, where a portion of the base operating grant funding will be contingent on specific performance outcomes. Alberta's post-secondaries are expected to lose 750 full-time equivalent jobs in 2021 and 2022, although no breakdown by institution is available at this time. We do know that the reduction at the U of A is significant. With respect to public sector compensation, the provincial government is continuing to negotiate new contracts with a number of unions, including the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees. Minister Taves committed to addressing the public sector salary structure. Budget 2021 public sector compensation tables and reductions are generally consistent with the trends suggested in the 2019 and 2020 budgets. More than 300 public sector positions are expected to be eliminated this year. The budget also references a move towards private sector delivery of some services. While the budget continues with much of the government direction set in 2019 and 2020, it also grapples with the health and economic challenges created by the COVID-19 pandemic. It includes $1.1 billion for COVID-19 economic recovery strategic investment and $1.25 billion for COVID-19 contingency. The $1.1 billion for economic recovery is mainly operating funding, with a smaller portion allocated to capital grants and inventory. In our review of the budget documents, there did not appear to be any allocation of these funds to municipal affairs. The $1.25 billion for COVID-2019 contingency has not been predetermined, but it is generally to provide for healthcare directly related to the pandemic and for contact tracing, personal protective equipment, vaccine rollout costs, and support for shelters and vulnerable Albertans. The provincial 2021 budget also highlighted economic recovery grants, including an economic recovery envelope capital grant funding and recovery contingency funds. Administration will continue discussions with the province to gain a better understanding of those items and if any funding will be available to municipalities. So the province's capital funding programs are key to the city's capital plan. Not only does city building fuel jobs in the local construction industry and associated economic spin-offs, but it helps us build the infrastructure that is essential for a thriving economy. Funding for the Valley Line Southeast, West, and the future Capital Line remain in place. Funding for 50th Street grade separation, the Yellowhead, and the federal gas tax and green trip programs also remain in place. MSI is a keystone program for Edmonton, and it was reduced in this budget. Overall, these programs account for a third of the city's total approved grant funding for 2019 to 2022. The key budget impact to all Alberta municipalities is a 25% reduction in average infrastructure funding over the next 3 years, compared to what was received in 2020. MSI was also extended to the end of 2023, with the local government fiscal framework to start in 2024, in effect, a 2-year delay. The impact of MSI reductions is complicated by the fact that the new federal permanent transit fund that is set to begin in 2026 requires matching funding. The $3 billion per year program, a total of $9 billion over the 8-year commitment, aims to provide municipalities with the predictability necessary to plan and deliver transformative transit projects. The provincial budget, however, did not indicate any future commitments for required cost sharing to fully leverage the federal dollars. Albeit the federal announcement was relatively recent and perhaps it was too late for the provincial budget deliberations, but discussions will continue with the province on the required matching funding. So with respect to MSI, the slide outlines the effects on the current city's capital plan. The top portion of this chart reflects the MSI capital funding available to the entire province, and the bottom part of this table reflects the estimated impact to the City of Edmonton's MSI capital funding. Please note that the City of Edmonton 2022 to 2024 MSI amounts are estimates based on the previous percentage of allocation of provincial MSI funding. These amounts are subject to change as the province determines annual allocations for all Alberta jurisdictions. That being said, the estimates can be used to get a sense of order of magnitude for the impacts to the city's capital budget. The plans are to front and load the MSI funds for all municipalities in 2021 at $1.2 billion, and then have the reductions in 2022 and 2023. So although Alberta municipalities are receiving more funds than anticipated in 2021, there is a fairly significant reduction starting the next year. Originally, Alberta municipalities were expecting to receive a total of $860 million in the LGFF funding starting in 2022. That has now been reduced to $485 million, a reduction of $375 million. It's unclear from the budget documents how a new baseline total would be split between the two big cities and other municipalities. This will be clarified through further discussions with the province. So moving to the bottom of the table, the City of Edmonton can expect to receive approximately $55 million in additional funding in 2021, and then a decrease of $85 million in 2022. So that means over the remainder of this approved capital cycle, the MSI funding may be reduced by a net of $30 million. But looking into the next capital cycle for 2023 and 2024, the city can expect to receive 85 million fewer MSI dollars in 2023 and 35 million less in 2024. This equates to an estimated $120 million reduction over those 2 years. The 2021 provincial budget did not forecast beyond 2024. So for the remainder of this cycle, the estimated decrease of $30 million in MSI funding could be backstopped with the funding freed up through the municipal stimulus program funds previously provided by the province. But this means the anticipated stimulus impact of those MSP funds is negated. Instead of creating more jobs and rejuvenating the economy, funds must be redirected to maintain the existing capital plan. Those funds could have been used for various capital projects that resulted in high-paying jobs, helped stimulate the economy, and met many of Council's priorities, including but not limited to green initiatives, affordable housing, infrastructure renewal, including industrial and arterial roads, facilities, and open spaces. These potential opportunities are no longer realistic with the current budget cuts. Additionally, those funds, or a portion of them, could have addressed emergent funding needs, including managing the effects of the pandemic on future budgets. Again, this may not be an option moving forward. The situation does not improve in the next capital budget cycle. The MSI cut is expected to be $120 million, which is close to 1/3 of the anticipated local government fiscal framework funding prior to 2021 provincial budget cuts. The MSI and local government fiscal framework reductions remove a relatively flexible form of capital funding for many of the city's key infrastructure priorities and renewal needs. The reductions could affect our infrastructure renewal investments that have leveraged MSI in the past. To put it in perspective, a $120 million reduction in our renewal budget is equivalent to the entire open space renewal program for this current budget cycle, about 1/3 of the facility renewal program for this 2019 to 2022, approximately 325 lane kilometers of arterial road renewal, which is 9% of the inventory. So this is just an example of the potential effects. So difficult decisions will be ahead as we plan for the 2023 to 2026 capital budget cycle. Goes without saying that reductions in capital plans result in negative effects for the economy and jobs. We are still dealing with the effects of the pandemic on the economy, and the MSI reductions starting in 2023 may slow positive effects that we see as a result of the economic recovery efforts. Lastly, reductions in MSI funding limit our ability to match funds provided by other orders of government, such as the example of Permanent Transit Fund outlined earlier. The provincial 2021 budget states that while municipalities will see a reduction in their capital funding starting in 2022, $375 million will be directed to the economic recovery capital envelope in each of those years to invest in strategic capital projects. It is uncertain at this time if any of those funds will be directed towards municipalities. So with that, it's back to Andre.
Right, so as Mary explained, there was bad news in this budget for our capital program, which means there are some difficult decisions ahead and could impact not only the infrastructure that Edmontonians rely on, but also the economic stimulus of public sector construction jobs. But looking out to the next budget cycle, there's time to work with our colleagues at the Government of Alberta, ensure our messages on behalf of Edmontonians are clear and that the needs of our residents are considered. If Council would like, we can go into private to discuss further opportunities and strategies regarding that government relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this analysis. Questions from members of council here? Councillor Henderson, you'd selected this, so I'll go there first.
Just really quickly, I realize this is a kind of naive question, but my memory was that one of their election promises was they were not going to do exactly this in terms of the MSI and then the MSI replacement program. Am I remembering incorrectly?
That was one of the election promises.
So promises made, promises broken. Anyway, I couldn't resist that one. My other question actually is what puzzles me about this is, with the reductions at the universities, potentially, reductions, job reductions, who knows what's going to happen, what the real meaning is with provincial civil service. With the pulling back on things like CFEP, let alone our capital hit. Have we done any kind of, that sounds to me like a lot of job loss in Edmonton. And I'm wondering if we've done any analysis yet on what that looks like and what that will do to us indirectly in terms of our, whether our economists have had a chance to have a look at that and understand. It may be too early to do that, but I think that's something we need to keep an eye on.
Yes, Councillor, I agree entirely. We have to count the number of jobs that this impact has. I don't think we've done that yet, but it's work that we will.
Well, I'm not sure we can know yet. We really don't know what the intentions are with the provincial civil service. We can begin to guess, but we don't know.
That's correct, Council. We don't know that, and actually getting an understanding on the post-secondary sector in Edmonton, because the cuts were differential across the province. Yeah. And so understanding that as well. But it really is a stay the course from their 2019, generally with the exception of pandemic.
And the reason I think we need to keep an eye on it, because although it hasn't affected us on the operating side, if we see significant, job losses, which will lead to all sorts of other slowdowns in our economy, that will have an effect. And I think, much as I hate to say this, but being able to project that out for the future, I think probably will affect, affect what we do with our next operating budget. I'm not sure there's much we can do right now. I think obviously, what's really interesting about this is it's trading off a very short-term thing this year, although albeit these are all this year's cuts as well, against and I'm just wondering what that will do to investment if people know down the road that although there may be a burst of spending, well, it's not even a burst of spending, I daren't even call it that, although there may still be spending this year, why would you invest if you know that there's going to be big pullback next year? So is there a way I don't know what our capacity is right now in order to sort of do this kind of economic analysis, but it seems to me it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Council, we do every month monitor the job losses in the CMA, and so we will be trying to marry up what we understand with what actually happens on the ground. We do it by sector as well, so we do publish that, and we can bring that forward.
What, if any, kind of tools would we have to be able to respond to that? We don't have a lot, I know, but I thought I'd ask. If there's anything that we can think of that might be able to counter the kind of negative effects of that.
Based on the work with our economists and others, the cities are really limited in their ability to move the dial, with the exception of the one thing that seems to make progress is capital spending.
Right.
So, but it's also being in line with the other orders of government, which have far significant more financial levers to move the dial in that regard.
But capital spending is going to help one very specific part of the economy, correct? It's not going to, that for some of the other pieces of the puzzle in the city, it's not going to have that effect, I wouldn't think.
There
it's not,
are
no one who gets laid off from university is going to pick up a job building houses.
Correct, though there are some spin-off effects, but when you asked about the tools a municipality has,
understood.
That's the tool a municipality has.
Gotcha. No, I understand. I just was wondering,
Yeah, the only thing I would add, Councillor, is, of course, the work we're doing in making it easier for businesses to stand up and permit and all that. We've done some good work, and we're doing more work on that red tape reduction, if you want to call it that, or just making the permitting process very clear and smooth and transparent and easier for businesses to stand up is, I think, a key tool the city has to help with employment.
I'm just wondering if there are linkages, with our push towards diversification of the economy, if there's ways to make this an opportunity. I don't know what those would be. Obviously, what may be happening at our post-secondaries could be some very highly skilled people that are out there looking for.
Yeah, and Councillor, I'd immediately point to the tech sector and to the biomedical sector and some of the things we've discussed recently, such as vaccine manufacturing and things like that. I think it just reinforces how important that kind of work is, and just becomes more important going forward, I would say.
Great. Thanks. I'm out of time.
Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. The first question I have just relates to the cumulative impact, and I'm wondering if we have some type of information, even a one-page chart that sort of monitor or tracks the changes from when we first signed the previous city charter, which I know has since been removed, but that resulted in I think a 42% reduction. And then there was a subsequent 600 million reduction over 10 years in October 2019. And then there's this. And so I'm just trying to make sure I can track not just what changed in this budget, but what has changed in the last couple of years of budgets and the total impact. Do we have that?
I'm just looking to Mr. Rye if we have that. I know we have that in the background, but we might have to take some time to pull that together.
And I don't need it now. I think that might be very useful when we're talking about our budgetary impacts, because we often get caught up in these one-year cycles and we don't always go back to talking about and fully understanding the scope of all of the changes. So that might be something, if it's possible, in a memo so that we can track in the future. So some of the questions around the decision to sort of postpone the local government fiscal framework. So while if I understand correctly, the LGFF wasn't as good as what we would have defined in the fiscal framework of the city charter, because it doesn't share in the same benefit the same way. One of the things that did do is it provided us with greater long-term certainty around what we should expect. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay. So therefore, I'm just curious if the provincial government gave any rationale for the decision to postpone that, being that it impacts our ability to do long-term planning, and that's challenging, I imagine, in any order of government to not be able to plan for the long-term infrastructure needs of any order of government in any city, province, or country.
The communication back to us was just that with the pandemic and with some of the moves, the delay out 2 years, they considered to be pragmatic. There was a commitment, I understand, to still have it forward in just 2 years out. So there is still ongoing conversation that should be had, Councillor.
Okay. But the framework is done, though. So I'm just curious if they provided any explanation as to what would be pragmatic about delaying something that's already done and provides greater certainty for municipalities. They might not have given you that answer. I just want to double check if they gave that answer.
I don't believe I have an answer for that, Councillor.
No, that's fair, and I appreciate that, and something that'd be nice for them to maybe share a response with us about. Another question relates to these permanent funding options that are starting to come from the federal government. So you mentioned in the presentation, there's nothing right now that would be matching the federal government permanent transit funding. Do we have any indication from them if they're planning to develop that? Because obviously I've heard them talk a lot about wanting to get their fair share from Ottawa. And I think one of the ways to do that is to make sure we're tapping into the funding that they're trying to give to municipalities to advance priorities that we have.
Councillor, I believe those should be ongoing discussions we have with the province with respect to that. There's also, though it's announced, some ambiguity as to what that matching program would be. So I think we just have to keep discussions open with the province in that regard.
Have they given us any indication that they're interested in trying to make sure they can capitalize on those dollars so that we are getting more of our fair share?
I'm hesitant, not with me, perhaps with Mr. Laughlin or Mr. Corbould, but not directly with me.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's just worth checking again, and wanted to double check that. I think the last question I have here relates to some of what Councillor Henderson was talking about in the post-secondary pieces. This is obviously, our post-secondary institutions are probably one of our greatest competitive advantages in a global economy. And I wanted to double check how coordinated we are with our post-secondary institutions when it comes to advocacy to the provincial government, making sure that they understand that when they make, again, cumulative impacts to post-secondary institution budgets, that makes it that much harder for us to be competitive on a global scale, thereby impacting the opportunity for the province to deal with economic recovery.
I would say, Councillor, very close. I've spoken to not all the presidents since budget, but I've certainly spoken to the president of U of A and of Norquest, and we discussed the impacts of the budget, what it means to them, what it means to the city, and we've agreed to have ongoing, very close dialogues and sharing of information and how we are talking to the province together as a team. So very closely is my quick response.
Okay, that's helpful. I'm out of time, and thanks for your responses there. I might come back around. I might do a subsequent, Mr. Mayor, on that piece.
Yeah, I think we've heard there's some continuing analysis. I'll pass the chair to Councillor Henderson.
Chair.
And I think a motion to bring that back, both the historical piece that you described, the cumulative historical impairments that we've faced, and then in this environment, what the cuts, not just to the city, but to major employers in the city will mean for this region's economy. So yeah, I think a motion on that would be very welcome if you want to work up some wording. Questions I have are unemployment today is at, what are we at? 11.9 or 13.1? It's a big scary number in the double digits.
I don't know if I know today. I will just look, but it is in the double digits for sure.
And that's going to go up as a result of this budget.
I'm hesitant to forecast that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, the budget's not going to help anyway, I think is the main point. Yes, you don't have a crystal ball, neither do I. Do we have a factor, in a motion that might come forward where, cuts to infrastructure that, would fund things like the rehabilitation of Horillac Park or new roofs on libraries and rec centers? There's material for a lot of those jobs, but they're pretty labor intensive. So I imagine, do we have a benchmark for, $1 million of maintenance capital spending is equal to so many jobs?
We tend to use Statistics Canada for some of those estimates. I don't have them in front of me. 11.9 was the unemployment in Edmonton in January.
Okay.
I can get you the statistics that we do use.
Well, they're often cited multipliers, and depending on the asset class, the multiplier is a little different. But I think we'll have a good sense by the spring supplemental adjustments here of what categories of infrastructure are potentially impaired by this, and what that could mean from a jobs and economic impact point of view. So I won't press for numbers today because I think that clearly there's some more analysis there. So I've been trying to follow this $375 million bouncing ball, and it certainly looks like that funding has been appropriated away from discretionary spending for municipalities and reabsorbed by the government to disperse according to their priorities. Is that a fair?
I think that's a fair assumption, Mr. Mayor.
Well, and that is, I could use a strong word to describe that. But I'll just say it's problematic because I think resources are being taken away from municipalities and then reappropriated for political prioritization by another order of government, and that's on top of everything else. That's very troubling. So I would just hope that there is consultation and engagement with municipalities about how to get good leverage out of those dollars. That frankly hasn't been this government's strong suit, to ask for help and advice and to behave like a partner on these issues. But there's an invitation always to adjust course on that. So I guess administratively, has there been any engagement so far about what the process will be for determining how that $375 million will be prioritized in the province?
No, there hasn't.
Well, it's early days. I mean, the budget hasn't been passed yet. They've got to figure out how to do program delivery. and we've got to do our best to now ingratiate ourselves rather than exercise the discretion that we previously had over our share of these dollars, which is frustrating. Does anyone know what the terms of the partnership around the low-income bus pass are? Are there agreements in place that run more than a year at a time, or is it really subject to budget from one year to the next? What certainty do we have around that? Because I know we have to keep checking each year, and it's not abundantly clear yet, but is there any agreement in place that insulates that?
I think I'm going to ask Mr. Seabrook to answer that. I do know it was a pilot at one point, but it seems to be firmed up, but if he's online.
Your worship, at this point, it's still been year by year, so we don't have anything definite at this point in time. So we've been working closely with our counterparts in the province to get as much advance notice as we can as we go on our budget process every year.
Okay, I'm out of time. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I'll return the chair, and I'll move the second round for Councillor Knack.
No more questions, Councillor Knack, just the motion?
Correct.
Why don't we hear 9.1, and then that may add substance to or interpretation to any motion arising, since they're essentially cross-referenced here. So I'll promise to come back to you for a motion on 6.2, but my suggestion would be, if there are no more public questions, that
I'll move to bring 9.1 forward then.
Any objection to bringing 9.1 forward? Not hearing
I'll
any.
move to go in private.
Thank you. Please vote to go in private.
Second.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we're just starting the machine up. Yep. We will record that for Councillor Zadok and for Councillor Katarina. And the vote's just on its way out to you. Councillor Banga, are you with us?
Councillor Banga?
We have 12 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, display the vote. Carried. Let's just give clerks a moment.
We are back online, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillor Knack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think this can be moved as a replacement to receipt for information for 6.2. And I think we have it up for the clerks to share. So it would be the administration provide a report on the following. Number one, a summary of historical cuts to operating capital dollars. Number two, the cumulative impact of cuts to the City of Edmonton post-secondary institutions and our civil service in this budget to jobs and economic health of the city and region.
Second.
Thank you. So just codifying the analysis that we were talking about further, that thank you, and that's seconded by Councillor Henderson. So questions on the motion? Speaking to it, Councillor Henderson, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been sitting here, I asked the questions at the beginning, and I appreciate this motion from Councillor Knack. I think what frustrates me about this budget, and it may be intemperate for me to say this, but I feel it needs to be said out loud. I'm deeply puzzled by how this budget can be seen as a job creation budget. It does not look like that to me sitting here in the City of Edmonton. And, this is a government that talks about how jobs are important to them, but I cannot help but looking at this budget say that may be true for the rest of the province, but Edmonton jobs are not important to them. If they were, they wouldn't be basically doing significant cuts to some areas that are very much part of the people that work in this city. And if we don't think that's going to affect some of the other businesses that everybody's saying, are also struggling, if we don't think that smaller businesses are going to do better because less people have jobs and can spend their money going to restaurants, going to shops, all those other things that drive an economy, I think we're kidding ourselves. I am really worried about the cuts to post-secondary in this city, which is very much part of what makes our city tick. I understand that the rest of the province resents the fact that we have a civil service in Edmonton, but it is a very major part of our economy here. And if we don't think that that's going to have an effect on small business, if we start really hitting those people hard, we are kidding ourselves. And I just think that needs to be said out loud. I think it needs to be said out loud that if we really want to be creating jobs, it's not about good jobs and bad jobs. A job is a job is a job right now. And that just seems to be, that the understanding of that seems to be missing in this budget, that somehow or other there's good jobs or bad jobs, or somehow or other there's good parts of the province that need to be supported and others that don't. And I really feel at this point, from what we're seeing in this budget, that the message to Edmonton is our jobs don't particularly matter. So I realize that's sort of incendiary to say, but I just didn't want to leave it unsaid. So I completely support this and look forward to getting the information back and have every belief that we'll somehow or other be able to sort of do our best to counter what I think could be really troubling times for the city, given what's been put on the table here.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Just on routing, suggestion is that this come back with the supplementary operating and capital budget adjustments in this, operating primarily, which will then inform the capital. But our next budget touch point in March, April. It's distinct report that's cross-referenced for context. So assuming that's friendly as a timeline, that's the CFO's recommendation for timing and routing.
Yes, it would be, Mr. Mayor, as long as it's a distinct report but cross-reference, that'd be great.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, Councillor McKean?
Thank you. Question to the mover. I just found the term "our" in our civil service a bit ambiguous. Do you mean the provincial civil service jobs in Edmonton?
Maybe it should say the civil service instead of being our. Yeah, just appreciate that flag.
Do you mean the provincial civil service though, or?
Ours, so I'm talking the city of Edmonton, and it would be nice to also understand the provincials. So I think the civil service might make more sense for clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, that is, I think, satisfactory. I won't repeat everything that Councillor Henderson just said, but I'm particularly distressed by the cuts to post-secondary. There was an indication I heard recently that it's the U of A in particular got hard hit in the last budget is being particularly hard hit in this budget compared to, say, the University of Calgary. And that, you know, that to me is folly when we're trying to diversify and this economy and focus it on the future innovation and a smart economy. Just, man, that does not seem like a wise move. So I will be completely supporting this motion to get that information back. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to double check, it's friendly to everyone to change to the civil service. I mean, I think the intent is there may be knock-on effects for us, but the cuts to post-secondary and other public services maybe. I think the point is beyond the city of Edmonton. We're looking at the community-wide cumulative as opposed to just the civic or municipal impact. So if we can just tidy that up. How about and other public services instead of the civil service particularly? Because it shows up in a variety of direct and indirect ways. Capital cuts to other services also have non-civil service impacts. So I think broadly, if we just say and public services. Okay, that looks like it's friendly. All right, next up is Councillor Caterina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the mover as well. I like this adjustment here too, but to number one, historical. There's no time reference here, and I think if we need to look at all three. I won't go back to social credit days in the 1940s, but at least this particular government, UCP is 2 years in, 2.5 years in, NDP 1 term, and PC before that. So I think there should be a balanced reference point to how far back are we going here, and to make it equal. That might shed some light if it is public information at some point in time what each of the last 3 governments have done or not done. So some reference point to the time frame that we're going to be looking at historically.
If I can make a suggestion, I think perhaps back to the beginning of MSI would be a good reference point that gives us the full picture over time of what was promised and what's actually been delivered over the years against all of those promises.
Yeah, I agree, and that would take in the 3 governments that. But yeah, MSI at the start of it and the changes that have been made historically, just over that is appropriate. So
that's back to about 2008.
Yeah, 7 or 8. I can't remember the first year that it was implemented or even when it was spoken about, but yeah, it was around that time.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine for me. That's friendly to me. That makes sense.
Okay. So do we want to put a year around historical, or just that's broadly administration can pick a start point in the 10 to 15 year range?
Yeah, I think just stating administration, you can find out when MSI was implemented or first year was promised, and maybe make that year reference point for historical.
We suggest the inception of MSI.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Is that friendly? Okay, that's a good reference point. Good. Okay, that's now included in the motion as well. Maybe I'll probably shouldn't say anything, but Councillor Henderson, if you could take the chair.
Will do.
So I think on this motion and arising from the discussion that we had, this look back will be very important. And there are lots of reasons why we never got to $1.4 billion a year for municipalities ever over that 15-year period. That has to do with the boom and bust cycle that Alberta finds itself in. But historically, what's happened, and the report can put some data to this, but really what's happened is promises get made during boom times when costs are going up for municipalities. And then by the time that money, which is supposed to ramp up in the future, is to be delivered, we hit another bust in this province. And then the grant, instead of going up, if you're lucky, gets frozen, and more often than not gets cut by 5, 10, 20%, even if provincial revenues are only going down 2 or 3% because of what's, that is to say, non-resource revenues, overall stable revenues are going down. Now, in the old days, that 1.4 billion correlated to the education property tax once upon a time. The government now collects well in excess of $2 billion in education property taxes. And the proposal of the day was to hand that to municipalities. And instead, the government said, no, we'll give you these infrastructure dollars at par, basically. We never once got the full amount. And every time times got tough, it got cut. And every time the economy came back, promises were made about it going up, but it never did. It's actually just a declining staircase that continues in this budget of cuts to municipalities. And promises made and promises broken by successive governments. And that makes it really hard to plan cities that can attract investment, can compete for talent, can keep companies growing, and that's the big picture. Now, over all of that time, as that was happening, the case was made by several successive councils in Edmonton and Calgary that there ought to be a better way. That produced the city charter, which eventually turned into the fiscal framework, which was meant to be legislated to give us some certainty. And that legislation still hasn't been proclaimed, so it doesn't give us any certainty. And when you can't run a deficit, you can't do stimulative things on your own. You're really slave to the senior orders of government, which can borrow money without a plan to pay it back. And whether that's right or wrong, we can't do that. We've got to raise taxes to pay back any money that we borrow to do stimulus. And in a situation as economically grave as this, to be in the situation that we are in, having our resources to create jobs cut, puts us at a competitive disadvantage and an economic disadvantage. And then at the same time to have, and it's the erosion of the understanding. We got to an understanding at some point in this province that we couldn't do that anymore, and passed legislation, and I don't know how many memos I've signed with how many premiers saying we're going to do better. And we lost all of that. And we lost it before the charter, or pardon me, before the pandemic, but the pandemic could have been an opportunity to reinvigorate it. Instead, we're going in the other direction again, which is powerful frustrating for me after 14 years of trying to help turn that around in this city to the benefit of this region and this province. And, but it's not just us, it's also post-secondary institutions, which are the lifeblood, not just of key jobs in our community, but of pipelines to innovation and creativity to solve problems like pandemics, problems like cyber challenges of the 21st century, problems like how to make infrastructure work better. From pavement to pandemics, so much of what our post-secondary institutions do is vital. And they create the talent of the future, and they tell a story about where we're going economically and socially, culturally. And so eroding them as well, especially in a post-secondary heavy city like this, is a real double whammy for us that I have huge concerns about. So I think putting some data behind what our guts are telling us is a very, very serious hit to our economy and the health of this city and region will be helpful context. I'm not sure it'll change the outcome, but at least Edmontonians will have a picture of what's happening to us, a complete picture. I'll take the chair back.
It's yours.
Councillor Knack? I'll just double check before I go to you. We just need to extend orders for a few minutes to complete this, and then we've got a subsequent, and then we've also got just a scheduling change and perhaps one notice of motion. So we may need a few more minutes to complete the agenda.
I'll move to extend orders.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Knack.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
That's
Please
to
vote.
complete the business.
Yeah, to complete the business. Yeah.
Thank you, we're just calling.
Should
up
just
the
take a
vote.
couple of minutes, but just so we don't trip over ourselves.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Zadek. Councillor Henderson?
Sorry, I'm a yes, my computer went to sleep.
Thank you, and Councillor Esslinger?
Yes.
Thank you, we have all the votes, 12 are in.
Please display the vote. That's carried. Okay, Councillor Knack to close.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I won't repeat much of what you said. I'll just offer a quick echo of one point. Part of why I think it's important to have this is again, making sure that we can all understand the impacts that we have seen over time, because even for myself, like while I try to follow this, it does get pretty messy because we sort of get so focused on what happened in one year. It's hard to recall and then add in all of the subsequent or previous impacts in budget. So I think it's really important for that. Just on the post-secondary, again, you said a lot of excellent things. For me, I think it's important to have this because, as I mentioned in my questions, I think our post-secondary institutions are one of Edmonton's strong economic advantages in what is become very, very global economy. And when we're talking about how we're going to succeed into the future and thereby how the province will succeed, it is going to be through our post-secondary institutions and eroding their support and financial support to be able to do what they need to do to develop talent, to come up with new solutions. I really worry how that will impact the province as a whole. So the final comment really I just wanted to remind everyone with is that the day after the last federal election, I remember the Premier sent out a letter and he ended it with, "A strong Alberta ensures a stronger Canada." That was how he ended his letter in his request to the newly re-elected Prime Minister, that they wanted to work together as partners to achieve common goals. We've wanted to do that for years and years and years. That is exactly what we want to do. I'd love to see that type of partnership that they seek with the federal government, with the provincial government, because I don't think it exists right now. And that makes it very hard for us to achieve what I think are, in many cases, common goals on many different areas. They talked a lot about jobs, economies, and we want to help them with that. So making sure we have a strong Edmonton ensures we have a strong Alberta, ensures we have a strong Canada. So I just echo the Premier's own words and say we would like the same thing that you seek with the federal government. And this might help paint a better picture of what's been happening over the years and how we might try to come together going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina.
Yes.
Yep, thank you, Zadek. Councillor Zadek, we're just sending the vote out. Councillor Nicol? Councillor Nicol, are you still with us? Mr. Mayor, I don't think I believe we have 11 votes. Thank you.
All right, display the vote. Carried, 11-0. All right. Subsequent motion arising from earlier, Councillor Cartmel.
Thank you, Mayor Iveson. I've exchanged some wording with the clerk, so if that can be put up, I can just read it in.
Go ahead.
I was waiting for it to be displayed. There was a little bit of editing back and forth, so I want to make sure I have the right version in front of us here.
We're just putting it up, Councillor Cartmel.
Thank you. So I will move that administration provide a report to committee, one summarizing how authority to approve indemnification and legal representation of members of council and council committees is assigned in other municipalities, and two, outlining options for the assignment of the aforementioned authority. No rush on that, and I spoke to why I thought we might discuss this earlier, and so I won't belabor that.
Thank you. Seconder?
Chair, I'll second.
Councillor Henderson. Okay. All right. Any questions on this? Not seeing any. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thanks, Councillor Katarina.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Zadek. We have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried. Could I have someone move to allow Councillor Henderson to make a schedule change motion without customary notice?
Happy to do so, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Councillor McKean, seconded by Councillor Cartmel, I think. Please vote to waive notice.
Yes, Madam
Yes.
Clerk.
Thanks,
Yes.
Councillor Katarina. Thanks, Councillor Zadek. Councillor Essinger?
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried. Councillor Henderson, if you'd be so kind.
I'll be heartbreaking to hear this, that the March 17th, 2021 non-regular city council meeting from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. be cancelled. That's the good news. And part two, that the March 26th, 2021 Community and Public Service Committee non-regular meeting be rescheduled to March 17th, 2021 from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. with continuation on March 26th, 2021 from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. for candidate interviews for agencies, boards, committees, and commissions.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Please vote.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Katarina.
Yes.
Thank you. We're just sending the vote out now. Councillor Paquette? We have all the votes.
Display the vote, please. Carried. And notices?
Mr. Mayor, I have one.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That City Council, in response to the federal government's decision to adopt 988, a national three-digit suicide and crisis hotline, and the increasing demand for suicide prevention as a result of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, endorse and promote the 988 Crisis Line Initiative.
Thank you. Notice is received. We'll see that at council in a week and a half. But thanks for bringing that forward. Any other notices today? We do need a motion to keep the.
I'll move the
Receive for information, keep in
recommendation 9-1 and that it
private.
be received and it be remain private according to section 21, disclosure harmful to the intergovernmental relations, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
please vote.
Needs a seconder, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll second it. Or Councillor Knack, okay.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Councillor-
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Councillor Katarina, the vote's just on.
Yes.
the voting. Thank you, Councillor Zadek. Councillor Paquette.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the vote. Carried. All right. That's all for today. Thank you for staying a little bit longer to complete the business. Enjoy the rest of your day.